So, welcome to this month's fireside chat with Vitorio from Luxprovide. But before we start, it is the usual one we have. It's about startup grind. We are one of the leading global startup communities in the world, and we give it to us ourselves our mission to give companies everywhere the education and opportunities they need to build, grow, and scale their companies. And therefore, we fix ourselves some values, but values we don't fix, haven't fix, not fix imposed, but we live them because we believe in making friends, not contacts. We believe in giving first, not taking, and we believe in helping others before helping ourselves. And this is what we try to do with our events and also with this fireside chat. And today we are pleased to have Vittorio with us. And I just would like to invite you to ask your questions or comments in the Q&A session and the Q&A feature of it. So, but without further ado, welcome Vittorio. How are you?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Perfect. Hello, everyone.
Thank
Thank you for the introduction, Steve. As mentioned, my name is Vitorio Santonocito. I'm at Luxprovide responsible for taking care for the engagement with all the startups that are, let's say, want or are using our HPC Meluxina. So from my side, I'm taking care of the business development and also in part solution engineering. So helping with my technical background to assist and guide at best the startups for their needs and to see how we can help them based on the programs that we have that we will talk later on and or not, but with the services that we provide from a computational part, but also from helping a human part, what we can help them, and that's what I do for the moment. Yeah, Luxprovide.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Vittorio. So, in order to grasp a little bit better what and how eventually a company, a startup, or an entrepreneur could use or benefit from the services from Luxprovide,
Mm-hmm.
let's go a little bit the how we call it the school of hard knocks, the path of an entrepreneur. It
Mm-hmm.
generally all starts with an idea.
Yeah.
Okay, you have an idea, and then you say, okay, let's go for it.
Mm-hmm.
And in this idea phase, and you think, okay, there's a pain, there's a need, and I have a solution for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How can they go to Luxprovide or to you, and
Mm-hmm.
in order to get some assistance or some guidance?
Hey, it's good that you mentioned the word idea. So we have lately a mantra that we already mentioned during the supercomputing day at Nexus in June. So we have this think, create, compute slogan, let's say. And what you mentioned is the think part, where you have an idea, you want to leverage it, and you say, okay, I want to continue to create something. And then you have a blocker, the centering point. And then that's where we want to help you with the compute, obviously, for tech ideas. And here, the usual way is, let's say, yeah, you get in contact with us, but it can be multiple. So you have events like these ones that you can then go on our website, or you can directly contact us. And what we do is try to assess together and see how we can implement it. And obviously for us, what matters is, does it make sense to be on the machine, first of all? So because yeah, it's cool, you can say, look, I'm on HPC, but at the end, if you can't compute, or if your needs are not really assessed on a machine, it doesn't make very sense. And we're not about that. So we're about innovation and really making impact and making difference. So what we try to do, and our goal is to sit together, first of all, see what your project is all about, what you're doing, and guide you and help you with me from a higher level technical part. And then if we need to go deeper, we have a solution team which are at disposition with mainly PhDs, senior engineers on the solution team that can help you give you some ideas, or even implement better whatever you have in mind to do. And so what we start usually, especially with startups, when I talked about programs, we have this program called Initiate. So the goal of this program obviously is to get what we like to say your hands dirty. So maybe you never had the chance to deploy your idea, that once we assess that it makes sense, that we can, it really needs computational power such as an HPC to help on it, and we give it to you, let's say, for free. Why we give it for free? Because we want to lower the barrier of entry, and we know that, and we want to try to democratize HPC in general. And so coming back to the phrase "get your hands dirty," so what we want to do is to give you the possibility to test something and have access to a machine that you, it's difficult to have, and to go on with it and see if it makes really sense to make in general the investment to develop and to continue. Once you thought about the idea you want to create, you will want to scale it at some point, or you want really to make something out of it. I think the goal of every entrepreneur is at a certain point, okay, I did my market research, I see trends, I found a solution for a need that some people have. Can I really make something out of it? And in this case, if it's a tech startup, for example, it can be tricky from some point of view. If I have even a POC, or a proof of concept or something, validation of that their idea can be done. So that's the idea of the Initiate, is to have a small package that is not only the computing size, but also, as I mentioned before, we have our solution engineer. There's also some, we call it consulting, but what we mean by consulting is helping directly and guide them with our solution engineer based on their project that is on the machine. We don't do anything outside of projects that are on Meluxina. And so that gives them a full package and a full possibility to at least test and see what can be done, and do some benchmarking or some, as I said, POC, so it's a sort of proof of concept, but as I said, no strings attached, for free, and really have some kind of validation that they can continue and make something out of their idea, or out of their project.
Thank you. And very often also you're talking about the proof of concept, and very often also that it's then you link it to an MVP, the most viable product. Is that also something which you allow already, or would that be a next step? Because an MVP very often is already linked with commercialization, slot commercialization very often.
So
How do you see that?
we don't, so our main goal is also never to be really a blocker in general. So we want to be, as I said, have an impact, be enablers in general. So the package that you have for the Initiate is already a lot. Okay, I won't lie about that, but it's also not something that we didn't do with the expectation to be able to fulfill a complete big project. Okay, so if you are able to, why not? Be my guest, let's say. But the idea is, if there's like a real serious project behind it, it's something that will take way more. So I'll make a really simple example. If you really want to, which is the latest trends, have your, let's say, your um, LLM model, but really homemade from scratch, with fine tuning and with some extra features that you want, make your own, so that you have no dependencies from tools or licenses or whatsoever. So you really know what's going on inside of your model and so on. It's something that needs a lot of time, from the data preparation to finding the right tools. So should I use a Yama? Should I use like the Meta tool? Should I use Mistral, or, for example, so on, until you get to the first test. You need your data, like I said, structured, so on. So it's a big process if you really want to say, I have my own LLM. Okay, so that is something that won't be possible, for example, with Initiate. Okay, but it can be possible just to test. Okay, I have an idea, maybe to use Mistral, so do some tests, do some initial testing with a small chunk of the data set that maybe you already have ready, and just to see if you find yourself also comfortable in the environment where you work with the Mixina. So once that is done, then from there on, normally we try to work together and go on, where we have then some other programs where we can really do something from A to Z and have really something finished. But again, if, for example, the MVP can be at least done when you say, look, I just need that first part of my POC or MVP that works, because I have to present it, I don't know, to investors or whosoever, we go for it. And normally it's, if it worked and you want to do the full-fledged project, it's just no brainer that we then normally continue and finish what we started. So, but we don't say no. So you can use it to your advantage, obviously, if you can. But as I said, it's just a matter of normally if you want to really go for the big project, it's not enough, to be straightforward.
Okay, thank you. This means, okay, we now getting to the MVP, we're getting some tractions, we ramp up the services with you and so on. And very often in the life of a young company, a young venture, it is, okay, you come, you have an MVP, you have your first users, you have your first paying users and so on. You sometimes go back to the drawing board and the back and forth. I mean, is that also something which you also assist, or where you say, okay, these are some best practices in order to say, okay, this is what you see, and then for going back for testing, then you have the qualifying and stage, and then you have the production stage. Is that
So
something
that's
where you
part
can...
of the bigger, that's something where, as we talked before, part of the bigger project where we want to continue post initiate. We want to continue to support you, but unfortunately, we can't do it for free forever. So that's why we came up in general with a program together with the Ministry of the Economy, and where we have this program called 80% cashback. So as the name already says, the main goal is that you can get up to 80% cashback based on the project. Okay, and it has to be obviously innovative project, and which for startups is the basics. Why are you doing something? We want to disrupt the market and have something new to help and resolve a new have new solutions. So the main goal there is to be able to include in this 80% project this whole solution that you want to extend on based on what you worked on. For example, during the initiate, it's not mandatory to do the initiate and the cashback. If you want to start directly cashback, obviously you can, but let's continue in that direction, connecting the two programs. And here, as you said, the thing is, even though you have the MVP, but you said, okay, I want to test again. I had my first clients, like I did the beta testers, okay, beta clients, for example. But you say, okay, based on them, I want to keep them and do the fine tuning. So keeping also the example, the mainstream, let's say, example of an LLM model. Obviously, at some point, if you come at a point where, okay, you have your first version, but you said, okay, I've noticed that I can fine tune it, get it better doing that. So that's part, and we can include that in our 80% cashbacks. And even for what's I already always tell startups, and I think that's really advantageous for them, is to say that in that 80% cashback, you can also include the consulting part. So especially for startups that are starting out and maybe don't have a big team and maybe not a specialized expertise in HPC, maybe in AI, in systems and so on, we have that internally, and we can give them, let's say, to you as an extension of your team. And the best part, that already you can include in the 80% cashback, but we don't care about IP rights. I think that's a very, very, very important part. So we know that it's one of the, at the beginning, especially one of the main assets of a startup, especially if they're starting something from scratch, to have their IP on their idea or on their creation, let's say. So even though our engineers, if they should at a certain point put their hands on the code, add some lines, so add some value, that's our goal in general. But so to optimize, to get the code better from something that part of the team of the startup already did, we won't care, and we won't claim any rights and any intellectual property right. So that stays completely to startup. And adding that to the 80% cashback is even a further step to be stress-free, let's say, in the project, which normally, if we take the timeline, the roadmap of usual projects is there about 1 year, let's say, or can go up or more than 1 year. So that's something extra for the startup to be like stress-free, like I said, to go through the whole project. We guide them, we do the roadmap, and then to have extra people, so they don't need to worry about hiring people, especially for the project or so on. So that's something we add, and I think have an extra value for the project. And like I said, can be then in general from prototyping, then executing the first version, for example, staying in the storyline of the LLM, to, okay, every 6 months outside of the cashback, for example, once we've done the biggest chunk of the work. But I want to stay with you, and every 6 months, since we already did the biggest work, just do the fine tuning or do like the update with new data, etc. Since we have everything that can be totally be done, so that's no problem, no brainer.
Thank you. And on the other hand, I mean, it's very technical. And if you have, for example, an entrepreneur who is technical but not so technical, you were talking about your consultancy
Yeah,
and so on.
yeah.
But are you also eventually able to put this person in contact with other partners which
Yeah.
could assist them? I mean, not something which you do in-house. I mean, the
No.
consultancy is already huge, what you're
Mm.
offering, but also other partners so that they eventually could develop that or grow that part without being specialized in it.
Yeah, so we have two things. So if we talk purely from a technical point of view, so we have, if we can, obviously, again, I know it's repetitive, but as I said, we want to have an impact and be enablers. So if we have partners, if we even have connections inside, and we know that we can deliver that specific type of work, if we can put some kind of connection between or have the right people inside of the project and find a solution to have them integrated in order to have a positive outcome of the project, we're super open to it. If there are services that we don't provide, obviously. Second of all, as I mentioned, for example, with 80% cashback, it's something we did together, obviously, Municipal Economy, but it's in collaboration, obviously, with Lux Innovation. So, for example, they're also very important actors for SMEs, but also for startups, especially. And so they're already always involved. So if it's something we can pass back to Lux Innovation, because maybe they need some actors, like special actors, to, as I said, to complete the project, we do that, no problem. We're not jealous, let's say, about that. And then furthermore, we like recently had also three collaborations, or like three partnerships that we developed with three main incubators, so that can help more on a logistic point of view, I would say, for startups, because maybe it's something I didn't mention, but Initiate is valid so they can apply a startup worldwide. So it's not limited to be Luxembourgish or, I don't know, European. So it can be from Asia to the US, South America, North America, whatsoever. It doesn't matter. It just have to be a valid business license and so on. But for the rest, there's no more limitation, and not older than 5 years. But beside that, then only the thing that it has to make sense to be on the machine. But then obviously the 80% cashback, since the money comes from the cashback comes from Ministry of the Economy, then the entity has to be Luxembourgish, so the company has to be Luxembourgish. And based on that, I think it's a big step. Like, for example, for company, let's have a scenario. It's a Luxembourgish or non-European company even that says, okay, I used your services. We did the initiate to just have an idea. Maybe does make sense for me to come, I don't know, to Luxembourg because I want to take the advantage of the 80% cashback. So for them, it's a big move from a bureaucracy point of view and so on. So, for example, you have the incubators who give you the possibility to have, let's say, a workspace and even for momentary Luxembourgish address if you want to have then Luxembourgish business license. And so we did partnerships like with Technopore, for example, for more deep tech startups. We also have recently did with the House of Biohealth for more in the health sector, and working with other incubators from different sectors to have this kind of partnership where we want to grant them an exclusivity of a furthermore, let's say, program that only those incubators have and have to pass via them. And to give them even, if they say, okay, I want to commit to come to Luxembourg, or I'm not sure for the moment, but I can't have access to the 80% cashback after the initiate. They can have via the incubators some. It's not really a discount, but say it's advantage from monetary point of view on the computational part via our incubators, and then they can help them also guide them with the bureaucratic and logistic part. So that's their work. Obviously, it's not ours, but as you see this working together and this wish to have everything working together. So we try to help companies also from that point of view, maybe that are not sure right now to then move to Luxembourg, but still okay want to still to work with us. There, for example, there would be this option. But yeah, there's some kind of collaboration that goes from the more technical stuff that we can deliver, talking on the project side, and then still outside of what we do in general, like I said now with the incubators.
Thank you. And once, let's say, Luxembourg is a very small market. You have to go internationally. And if one of the companies grows internationally and eventually they need further capacities somewhere else, due to latency issues and so on, somewhere in the world. It's not to say that you have not a good latency internationally, but if, for example, it has to be in somewhere where closer to some geographic area for latency issues, do you also can offer their partnerships in order that they don't have to do it from scratch, and that eventually do you have satellites or something like that?
Yeah, no, okay, I understand. No, so from that point of view, something maybe it's a good question. Something to make clear first of all. So we are a pure computing, let's say, company. So we offer the main core of our business model is compute. So we don't identify ourselves as a cloud provider. So that would be more also thing. From a latency point of view, so the connectivity is very, very good. So that's not the point. And we work more on a batch, or there is some interactive with the nodes. You can work interactively with the nodes. But so for the moment, it's not like a matter of, so we really never had the problem of a client saying, okay, I want your service, but the latency is a problem because, as I said, so for batch work, it just got in the queue with a Slurm API, and then you wait that your calculation, your compute time comes in. And on the other side, yeah, we have a cloud module, but the cloud module we have in place right now, as I said, since our model is not hosting entire solution, is more just to have a pre-production environment, just to test and just to see, okay, not to have, again, with the LLM model, okay, I train my model, I don't know, I'm on a hyperscaler, the big three, let's say, of the hyperscalers, I take it, test it, come back to Meluxina, retrain it. You can do it there, where you have like just the users that work on the project that can have an interface and just test it out directly without having to go in different environments. But yeah, so that's the main thing. You talked also about the geographical area. The one main thing why we have a great added value is also we can guarantee everything that's computing side and data is sovereign. So we have ISO 27001, which is one of the highest standards for companies. So Luxprovide is ISO 27001, so everything that's related to it, so the machine and everything is also, and we are sovereign, so we can guarantee that the data and everything that goes to the machine stays in Biesen, where the machine resides, and some part also in Battenberg, but it stays in Luxembourg / in Europe. So that's a very important part for, let's say, sectors as the health, for example, where data is very, very sensitive. So we are obviously GDPR compliant, but also we also attacking in general with my other colleagues, financial sector. So there too, they have very, very sensitive data, and they're now opening to the idea to moving the data outside of the infrastructure to train, for in our case, just to train. But why? Because we have all this infrastructure which is super secure in the data tier 4 center. We are, like I said, ISO 27001, etc., and we are sovereign. So they know that their data, beside the pre-processing, if they have to anonymize and so on, will stay in Luxembourg and won't go anywhere else. And furthermore, we are obliged, since we're ISO 27001, to delete any kind of data based on, or delete the project in general, where the data is 1 month after the ending of the agreement that we had in place. So even if the client forgets, I don't know, to say, we are done, delete it, we will be obliged to delete it upon 30 days. So that's those kind of procedure that we have in place, and that are very interesting. So I think for startups in general, from a geographical point of view, is if they need, they have like data and they get data, for example, I had this kind of example from stakeholders or from investors. Okay, I can give you some valuable data where you can train, staying in the AI matter, where you can train your model, but I have a problem. They're very jealous and worried about where it would go, where it will be processed. It's a great argument. Say, look, it will stay in Europe, stay in Luxembourg, and it won't go anywhere else. Same thing if you are a startup that are processing data of clients, and you're processing them you're using as a service to process apply your algorithm, your solution whatsoever, to process the data of your clients to get them an output back. Same thing, the client will say, okay, but where will you process this data? And then you can say, look, we will process it in a safe environment, etc., what I said before. So that's also a very important point in general that can be leveraged and is an added value that we can propose in general to our users. So yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. And now a little bit framing it. We have gone through a little bit the life cycle of a company, and what would be the typical profile of a client or a company using your service? For example, it's just to say that for those who are event watching this fireside chat, that they say, even if they are not thinking about it, but they may say, "Ah, yeah, yes, I didn't think about it." What would be, let's say, so on the one hand, the ideal profile? What is, and then if you look a little bit on the profiles of the clients you are serving, what kind of where they come? I mean, which
So you're saying the
verticals,
sizing,
the
so how big they
sizing,
are,
and
okay,
the
vertical.
vertical.
Okay, yeah,
And so you touch about LLM, you touch about
yeah.
health, finance, so
But
that somebody who is maybe not so technical
yeah, no, I will
knows a
high level
little.
understand. Yeah, no. So from that point of view, so let's okay. So from the compute resources, okay, it's technical, but not too much. So we have four main parts. Obviously, the two main used parts are the CPU, okay, and the GPU. GPU more for the AI part, CPU more for numerical simulation, digital twin, etc. We also have FPGAs and large memory modules, but they're, let's say, not so popular. So I will stick with the first two that I mentioned, CPU and GPU. And from that point of view, so we have, or at least I see it in two parts. So we have the CPU, as I mentioned, where we have in general more the users that need numerical simulation, digital twins, and use like heavy mathematical and physical models. So that's, if it's not purely AI related, more in the space, logistics, okay, where we really need numerical simulation, so we really need a high precision, okay, so that's, I don't know if uh, you saw it somewhere, if someone went to the web page before, we talk about the 18 petaflops, so this is the high precision part. Then when we talk about GPU, so the profile is there more about AI related with the latest trends, so I won't go much in details, but the thing is, mainly we don't, it's not that we don't care, but we are not like, let's say, selective on the vertical in general, okay? Not even the sizing. So like I said, we have more the mentality, okay, does it make sense to be on the machine to execute whatever you want to execute on the machine? And then obviously we have like we have now a head of finance, so we are specializing more in that sector. But why? Because it's a bit more new, so we need someone to be there and to assist the clients or the users to really help them. Then for my example, I am in the startup section, but I'm the horizontal part. But we have in space, we have in logistics, we have health also. We have some startups in health, for example, and the main also there was one of the main parts beside the computing is also the like I said, the security and the privacy part, which is very important, getting every day more important, because like the various, not restriction, but regulation and so on. So the profile can also vary from the size. We talked about size before, like you don't have to be afraid. We even have startups that are one-man show that are coming to us, and they really like the part that they have the idea, they're even not super technical, to be honest, so they learning now to use the machine, etc., but they are willing to go for the 80% cashback, knowing that we can provide them a team, and they know that it would be a bigger expense, for example, to hire people, that he knows that once the project is done, it will be a SaaS, typical SaaS, so you won't really need people there, and can somehow leverage it alone. Okay, then if he scales it up, obviously at a certain point it will hire, but like for the moment, for him, it's more logical to say, okay, I'll go with your team. We do the first version, and then I'm good for the moment. I don't have to worry. Can I have one or two persons there, and they won't work anymore, and I don't know what to give them to do. So that's, for example, one example. Then from bigger startups teams where maybe they have a big team, like I said, but they still need that one or two extra person, because like we can even, for example, optimize codes or like general algorithm or models that maybe run very well already on normal computer on a small infrastructure that they have maybe internally, but with small tweaks, maybe not even touching the code itself, more going with the profiling, the parallelization of it, we can outperform and even go better with the timing or then the runtime. Okay, obviously going on the supercomputer it already goes quicker, but then by doing some few tweaks we can even crunch down the time, and so that means less time you have for one run. You can do then the multiple runs and you save on it. So that's a bit the profiles in general. But yeah, there's not really, I would say discrimination, but like it's not like we're super selective from that point of view. I know you have to be at least, I don't know, that much people or that old, or I don't know, we just look space on health and finance and we don't care about the rest. So that's not
Okay, great. Thank you. And now coming a little bit to the questions which are popping in. One thing is about, okay, you have all these services, these offers and so on, and how long does it take to onboard for, let's say you have a company, somebody who is more or less technical, let's say he wants an LLM. He has a solution in mind, but he hasn't developed, he isn't a developer and so on. But he wants to get the LLM up and running and that the outputs are there. How long would be the onboarding in general? I mean, not
so the
from time.
deciding the roadmap of how we will
Yeah,
execute whatever he
more or
has
less.
in mind.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to be very fixed. I mean, just an overall, so that, for example, that an entrepreneur knows, okay, it takes 6 months, it takes 2 weeks, it takes 1 year. So,
So I would say the first thing I would say depends on what he's asking, but let's say in general, what it depends on, how long it takes before, like just discussing it, I would say, like really, if we find, we take in consideration to find the time to meet and all that stuff, I think within a month we can have, like worst case, can go even quicker. So, but worst case, within a month we can have a roadmap, so an idea of based on what he wants to do, how long it will take, how many workforce. So from our side, if he's like, let's say alone and he needs, okay, I need from your people to work on it, then the only thing is it depends when to start is based on our availability of the, let's say, human resources of our solution engineers who have to be implied, which everyone has a specific profile, is more expert in certain domains, computer vision, more in the speech and so on. But yeah, let's say to define the roadmap itself, it can go quickly. Let's say it doesn't, let's say, like I said, I think within a month, if there's like really the unfortunate timing and that we can have a quick exchange, is that. But then it, to say, okay, when can we execute it, then it depends on how long, how much resource it needs, so on. So that's based on the roadmap. But to have an idea, within a month we can provide like a, let's say, a reasonable, well, we can call it a quote, let's say, from, let's say, monetary point of view, but also from a timeline point of view, you can have that within a month, you can have that.
great, great, thank you. And then on another side, is there a relation or a complementary one, an overlap or something between HPC and quantum computing?
So from a point of view, if they have to live together, yes. So it's seen as a module. So it needs, so quantum needs HPC in general. Well, we don't have one yet, but what we have, for example, to show you that still needs somehow that there's like let's say an overlap, is the fact that we have simulators. So the simulators, quantum simulators, run on HPCs, and we have them like Qiskit, Penny Lane, and so on. Where the main goal is all to simulate, because obviously having access to quantum computing is even further step. It has other costs, etc. But for example, which is it's often used, is since doing a run with a quantum computing computer can have several costs, you want to make sure that your quantum algorithm works first of all and runs and gives you a logical output, something out. and you don't want to say, okay, at midpoint there's an error, and then you see that. So that's the goal of the also having HPC and have the simulators is also to pre-test your algorithm, which are way more complex and different of classical algorithm when you work in the quantum world. And so yeah, there is, from that point of view, there is some overlap. If that was the question, I think that direction.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mm.
And then on the other hand, that is something, now we talk a little bit what you are offering now, and what is a little bit your, maybe not go roadmap or so, but if you would have the magical crystal ball, and you would have a magic wand, and with the magic wand you would tip on the crystal ball, and you would see what you would like to see. What would that be? How would you see the evolution, or what would you say would be needed somewhere eventually?
So I think as we already started this year when we did the panel during the supercomputing day, where we had like the main actors, and we tried to get together for the startup section. The main actors we had from the Ministry of the Economy, Michele Gallo. We had the CEO of House of Startup, Philip Linster. We had also with Sven Baltes from X Innovation, and we also had one startup that's already working with us, so that we wanted to show that the ecosystem is starting to work together from the higher level, let's say government to top until the bottom, so the startup itself, so the user, the end user. And to create awareness, I think we have to continue to push with the awareness. So something I'm doing today to show you like the questions you asked me, but what is like the typical profile of a startup, like to show them not to be afraid to ask. We are super open, so that's not a problem. And again, as mentioned during that panel, is I think the next step. So we have the Luxembourg Gender Foundations, but also on our side, we are still working. It's not done, to be clear. We still have to work for having this foundation for the startups in general. But think ahead, like you said, in the future for the scale-ups also. So create an environment where you said, okay, what comes after the 80% cashback? Because once you've done the 80% cashback, you've done your first project, your first final big idea that we say think, create, compute. So now I computed, I have it. So to continue in general for startups to support them and see how we can then have the scale-ups that are then the next step of the startups and say, okay, I need a bigger environment in general, because from our side, we work where we can have an impact on the computing side, on the whole ecosystem. So I think Luxembourg is working on it slowly. So as a voluntary that was mentioned during that panel. So I think it's in general that kind of thing, but continue pushing also on the I'll call it lower level, on the starting point, not lower level, on the starting point for startups. We need to be aware, and there is a solution. There's really a solution to have access to HPC. We published with our marketing team a small article that I wrote where you will find redundancy about what I talked today, obviously. But the first part is more in historical context to have an idea why it came to HPC and what was the idea behind it. I don't want to focus too much because then it's a spoiler, but I highly recommend you, if you want to, you can find it on LinkedIn and on a webpage. And it's a small article of a few 8-9 pages. And there is the context, the voluntary to show that even when they came with the first Beowulf cluster, which was first prototype of what's based today HPC, the idea was to give access to smaller company. The startups wasn't a thing at that time. At that time, but to give in the 90s, but to give access to smaller companies to have higher compute power, which before was with the big EBM computers, where only big groups could have access, etc. So there was already a volunteer, the willingness to democratize in general HPC. So that's, in my opinion, it can always be narrowed down with the technological advancement that we have and everything. So we have to continue to work on that, and to, as I said, the awareness to make people aware that it's possible, and they just have to look for the right tool or program, and can make it happen.
So thank you very much. I mean, it was very insightful, and we are looking forward to the development of the HPC quantum computing, and especially also Luxprovide.
Yeah.
And thank you very much, Vitorio, for sharing with us.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.